So when we pulled the lower radiator hose off, there was just a bunch of sludge in that water pump out on the bottom. The lower radiator hose, when we pulled that thing off, there was so much sludge inside of the water pump that I could barely just stick my finger in there. And it wouldn't even come out like with my finger. I had to get some picking tools to reach up in there and scrape all that stuff out. So I ended up, right here, I ended up sticking the sprayer water hose down there and just flushing the water pump out. And I also, here in the water neck portion of the block, I stuck the sprayer in there to try to flush the block out. And of course I did spray some water to kind of flush the radiator out. There's a bunch of garbage that came out. So I am sure there's still stuff in the block, but I pretty much ran it until the water was pretty clear coming out of the block, and the same with the radiator. So, you know, once I get this put on and the engine starts running and warms up, you know, I'll probably take the radiator hose off on the bottom just to let more garbage come out. And then I do have the radiator flush stuff that I'm going to put in too to try to flush everything out as best as I can at this point. So I ended up picking up a gasket for the water neck, and I got another 160 degree thermostat. That's what was already on the car. I believe factory is 195, but I just want to basically just mimic what was already on the engine. I don't know if there's a cam in here or anything like that. So, you know, I just want to keep it the way it was. And the water neck itself was all kind of, had some sludge in it, a little bit, and rusted and stuff. So I got the wire wheeled on that and cleaned it up. So I'm going to get this put on right now. Assume it's going to go in and out the direction of the water neck. I'm very thankful that that the parts store had these gaskets and the thermostat and stuff. One thing that I'm learning about AMC is a lot of the parts stores don't carry the stuff. They might have it in the system, but it's a special order. So you know, even like O'Reilly's, they didn't have anything. I wasn't able to use O'Reilly's for nothing. Actually, AutoZone had stuff. I had to kind of travel to some of their different stores around the area, but they did have some of the stuff that I needed so far for this car. So I'm thankful for that. So let's get this gasket put on there, put the water neck on there, and thank you, neighbor's dog, once again for barking on my videos. Never seems to fail. It's, you know, it's been quiet actually, and then I start filming and the neighbor's dog starts barking. Gotta love that. Well, what do you know? Stops. All right. Man, I can't remember which bolt is which, so I guess I'm gonna I think this one goes through the water, if I remember correctly. So water passes by it. And let me try. This one here's got a little bit of oil on it. Yep. So this one obviously is by the filler neck. So I'm gonna stick this here with a little bit of oil, and the other longer bolt actually has a little bit of rust on it. So obviously that's the one that's passing through the water jackets area. So let me get this positioned. So I got the lower radiator hose on as well, and that was a little challenging. I should have showed you guys what the hose looked like, because it did not look like the hose that we took off. I was, you know, it's basically a cut to fit form hose. So it did end up working. I had to cut probably maybe 3 inches off of it, but it actually fit pretty good, and I'll stick the camera down there so you can see it. Hopefully you can see it. I picked up a temperature sending unit because my temperature sending unit's not working. So we tested it, Roy and I tested it, and the way you test it basically is you hook your battery up, and what you do is you run a wire from the sending unit itself to the negative side of the battery. And if the gauge moves, then you know that the sending unit itself is bad. Okay, I got the temperature sending unit here, the new one that I'm going to show you. So I'm going to go ahead and screw this in. It goes right here by the water neck. And a 13 millimeter deep socket fits it, at least this one. And I'll get that on there and we'll cinch it down a couple times. Cinch down a little bit, just hand tight, nothing too crazy. And that should do it. And this has got this little cap in thing that just snaps right on. And we should be good to go. I got that pushed there. Now, I'm just going to get my vacuum lines put back here on the water neck. I got to look at the vacuum line diagram again so I can make sure everything is plugged in where it goes. So I got to check that real quick. All right, I'm back. So this took a while. I had a fiasco just trying to find this upper radiator hose. Nobody had it. I actually placed the order online, and there was a little hiccup. So it ended up coming about a week later. But I'm glad they had it. So this is a Continental hose. So is a lower radiator hose that I bought too. It's a preformed hose. So everything fits pretty good. Looks like it's going to be a nice snug fit here. So I'm going to get this put on. Perfect. Excellent. Yeah, I could probably still take about another inch. I'm not sure. I may just keep it the way it is. It does seem like it's a little high. But I don't want it rubbing on this either, here, this AC line here, because that's how you get a hole. So it's just over that. I could probably cut it later. Be good. I'm just going to leave it the way it is. Another thing I wanted to do is while I'm waiting for the master cylinder to come in, I want to go ahead and put the oil pressure sensor back in. I had taken it off because it wasn't working, but then I do remember it was initially working when Craig and I first worked on getting the car started. But there was a ground wire loose, and that's why it wasn't working when I disconnected it. But I know that the engine has pretty good oil pressure, so I know that we got oil pressure. So I'm going to go ahead and put that old one back in there and pray that it works. If it doesn't, obviously, then I'll just get another one. But I'm going to stick that back in. So when I do that, I'm going to start it up, and we'll check the gauges. So let me get this thing, put some water in here. All right, I put some water in the radiator. Discovered a few leaks as I was filling it up. So I'll put some more in right now. I got the oil temperature sensing. I got the oil pressure sensing unit put in. Now I'm going to start this bad boy. See, to fill up the radiator again, like I said, there was water leaking all over the place, and I had to tighten a few things. So let's get this thing started. It's been about 2 weeks since I started this thing. Hold the choke open. Check this out. Check this out. Looks like I got a radiator leak. Oh no, no. It's just overflowing. I see. Okay, I better turn. Okay, looks like it's overflowing. I better turn this thing off. Okay, well, I put the radiator cap back on. That's all it was. Man, I was freaking out for a minute. I'm like, not another problem. So I'm going to start it back up. The oil pressure gauge is not working for some reason. It was working before, so I'm gonna test that, and I'm gonna test that circuit basically to see what the deal is. Okay, there we go there. Something is still leaking over here. I got a it looks like it might be some fluid. It looks like I might have some transmission fluid leaking from a hard line that might be dripping on the passenger side header collector. So I'm going to get under there now and take a look. Get this unhooked. So it looks like the passenger header where the collector meets the exhaust pipe is loose. So I'm going to tighten that up. I mean, you can hear the clicking. So I thought it was maybe somewhere here on the top of the headers, but it looks like it's the collector down there in the bottom. So I'm going to have to let this thing cool down, and then I'm going to get it tightened up.